Arthur Miller quotes, "The thing at issue is buried intentions. The secret allegiances of the alienated heart always the main threat to the theocratic mind as well as its immemorial quarry." The statement highlights how fear distorts personal beliefs, prompting irrational behavior. In The Crucible by Arthur Miller and Animal Farm by George Orwell, behaviors including slander and subservience reveal how fear invades personal beliefs and motivations, exposing contradictions and intricacies of human nature. The complexity of the human experience is revealed through how we enable fear and emotions to dictate our actions, causing us to act irrationally, exposing inconsistencies in our behavior when confronted with change. But what are human experiences? Human experiences encapsulate how individuals and groups interpret and respond to phenomena, reflecting the complexity of the human nature. Arthur Miller's The Crucible is a play set in 1690 Salem, a theocratic society where the church holds absolute authority, orchestrates the Salem witch trials to purge the devil from the town. The play serves as an allegorical critique of the 1950s McCarthyism movement in America, where fear of communism, the Red Scare, drove widespread persecution of alleged communists. Miller employs this contextual landscape to reveal how fear and hysteria fuels irrationality, exposing the paradoxes within the human behavior. George Orwell's Animal Farm is a political allegory of the Russian Revolution and the oppressive Soviet Socialist Republic, criticizing totalitarianism and the abuse of power. In the novel, the animals overthrow their farmer, Mr. Jones, to establish a society centered upon equality, but the pigs manipulate fear and propaganda to seize totalitarian control of the English farm. Orwell utilizes anthropomorphism to explore the corruption of power, uncovering the paradoxes in striving for equality and the complexities of fear and oppression in the totalitarian system. Through these texts, we will explore how fear drives irrational actions, revealing inconsistencies and paradoxes in our behavior, providing insight into the complexities of human experience. Miller and Orwell demonstrates the intricate human nature by portraying how fear is manipulated to obtain power and how people are allowed to warp judgment, exposing the contradictions and complexities of human behavior when influenced by this powerful emotion. In The Crucible, fear and hysteria propels the Salem witch trials, where people such as Abigail and Danforth exploit fear to enforce authority and power dynamics within Salem. The visual imagery depicts Abigail's control over Salem. Observed in Elizabeth's statement, Abigail brings the other girls into the court, and where she walks the crowd will part like the sea for Israel. Miller's allusion to Moses' parting of the Red Sea emphasizes Abigail's influence, likening her to a divine figure expressing the obedience rooted in fear. This metaphor highlights the infiltration of fear in the court and the fear of accusations, which compels the Salem town people to conform to her demands. Abigail's assertion of fear is evident in her threat to the girls. "Let either of you breathe a word and I will bring a pointy reckoning that will shudder you." Abigail's malice demonstrates her manipulation of fear to concrete her control and authority. The imagery of the crowd parting reflects fear's power to incite hysteria and cause the abandonment of values. The quote also ironically underscores Salem, as the purpose to uphold unity is undermined as Abigail, a lone child, manipulates the town using fear, conveying the disunity she sows. Furthermore, Abigail's influence on Mary Warren exhibits the internal conflict between fear and moral integrity, ultimately leading Mary to betray Proctor, pressured by the fear of prosecution shown in the quote, pointing at Proctor, "You're the devil's man." He is stopped in his tracks. The quote and stage direction conveys the overwhelming power of fear from both Mary and Proctor as she decides to save herself by accusing Proctor. Mary's betrayal expresses the fragility of Mary and Proctor's relationship, displaying how fear erodes integrity and human qualities, resulting in inconsistencies in Mary's morals, values, and beliefs. Miller's usage of these quotes shows the extent of which fear distorts society and the vulnerabilities of humans in response to fear and hysteria. They opt to conform to manipulation, disregarding moral integrity in order to preserve oneself, uncovering the contradictions of the people of Salem, thus showing the complexities in human nature. While The Crucible explores how fear catalyzes hysteria and the compromise of moral integrity, Orwell shows how it can be used to suppress dissent and consolidate power in Animal Farm through Napoleon and Squealer, who exploit irrational anxieties to control and maintain authority. Orwell critiques the systematic weaponization of fear and propaganda through Squealer, who distorts the reality of Napoleon's leadership using a straw man fallacy. Squealer rhetorically inquires, "Surely there is no one among you who wants to see Jones come back," to divert the attention away from the pig's exploitation and indulgence of the farm produce such as milk and apples. By using Jones as a scapegoat, he creates a false dichotomy between father of all animals, terror of mankind, protector of the sheepfold, ducklings friend and the like, Napoleon's leadership, or the return of the horrors of Jones's tyranny. We can also observe the dramatic irony present within the quote where under Napoleon, the animals suffer harsher conditions under the guise of autonomy than during Jones's ownership. But hey, at least they're working for themselves. Despite the reality served on a silver platter for the animals, they are so oblivious and infatuated with the fear of Jones's return that they fail to recognize the corruption and fear-mongering rampant within their own society. Orwell delves into the coercive aspects of fear through Napoleon's violent oppression and dehumanization, or de-animalization, of the animals, starkly exemplified in the quote, "When they had finished their confessions, the dogs promptly tore their throats out." The chilling tone and commentary underscores the brutality of Napoleon's regime, instilling fear using these executions to solidify total authority and unwavering compliance. The flawed logic of the animals, believing that confessing conspiracy against Napoleon would lead to salvation, only to be met with death, reflects the irrationality in their behavior. Otherwise, those who survive act in self-preserving ways, conforming dogmatically to Napoleon's demands. Orwell portrays the duality of fear, rallying the collective against a common enemy, while simultaneously blinding them to the corruption and manipulation in their society. Through exploring how fear influences people into making irrational decisions that are ultimately self-destructive, The Crucible and Animal Farm bring attention to the intricate nature of humans, how figures manipulate and exploit the notions of fear to obtain power, and how people enable it to warp judgment, illustrating the flaws and complexities in human behavior in response to fear. Paradoxes and inconsistencies evidently occur when people face change or pressure. The Crucible and Animal Farm gives us insight into the contradictory and complex human experience through exposing the tension between faith and self-preservation, and how such motivations create paradoxes and inconsistencies in human behavior. In his reflective commentary Why I Wrote the Crucible, Miller sarcastically asserts there had to be witches in the world or the Bible lied, exposing the paradoxical logic that governs Salem and criticizing the adherence to Puritan belief. The paradox is apparent when Judge Danforth insists on continuing the execution of supposed witches to preserve the court's authority, despite acknowledging the injustice of his actions. I cannot pardon these when 12 are already hanged for the same crime. Danforth's reasoning reveals an ironic contradiction where, to avoid appearing unjust, he must perpetuate the injustice, prioritizing the court's legitimacy over the truth and morality. Infatuated with his reputation and the threat of the devil, Danforth prioritizes maintaining the court's status quo at the expense of logic and rationality. Superstition and paranoia become the foundation of persecution, while reasoning and ethics hold no weight in the court. Danforth's moral paralysis of refusing to correct his wrongdoings reflects the uncomfortable tendency of human nature where the truth is sacrificed in order to uphold authority and social order. Miller employs this paradox to assert the dangers of blind adherence to any rigid belief system to the point where it overcomes rational thought. In particular, Miller criticizes the ignorant acceptance of McCarthy's anti-communist campaign, which, unlike Salem, suppressed justice and reason under the pretense of protecting social stability. The Crucible and Animal Farm both portray the devotion to ideology and the paradoxes that emerge when truth and morality are compromised in the pursuit of control. Whilst Miller criticizes the blind adherence of Puritan religion and McCarthyism, Orwell shows the paradox of equality in oppressive regimes in the animals' attempts of independence and egalitarianism. The ultimate maxim of the Seven Commandments, all animals are equal but some animals are more equal than others, powerfully reveals how concepts of equality can be subverted to consolidate power and establish hierarchies. Orwell utilizes satire to critique the exploitation of principles through the pigs, who initially advocate equality, come to impose a social order beneficial to themselves, reflecting the inconsistencies in socialism in achieving equality. The gradual alterations of the Seven Commandments as the pigs progressively seize authoritarian power exhibits a contrast between the egalitarian beliefs of animalism and Napoleon's authoritative practices, which underscores the ability of fear and power to erode principles. Originally being all animals are equal, the Seven Commandments repeatedly change until finally the central commandment is altered to all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. This final paradoxical assertion that animals have the same rights, yet some animals have more rights than those animals, provides insight into the redefinition of equality to perpetuate oppression. Both The Crucible and Animal Farm intricately unravel the nuanced complexities of the human experience, exposing the paradoxes and moral ambiguities as a product of chasing and opposing power. Through Miller's display of Salem's hysteria and Orwell's showcase of authoritarianism, the text exposes the fragility of rationality and integrity under social pressures where humans and animals disregard personal morals and principles in order to preserve oneself. Abigail's manipulation of fear, and similarly, Napoleon's exploitation of ideology, each demonstrate the influence of fear on human behavior and its ability to distort judgment and trust, reflecting darker aspects of human experiences. These prominent characters and concepts allow us as responders to gain different worldly outlooks, challenge assumptions, discover new ideas, and critically reflect. The storytelling through different contextual landscapes further adds to the timelessness of these texts, which explore universal themes and relationships. In conclusion, texts have the utmost capacity to explore the complexities of the human experience, depicted in The Crucible by Arthur Miller and Animal Farm by George Orwell.